Hello and welcome to the tournament page for the first bcrawl tournament. Bcrawl is a fork of Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup that I run. I made it to continue xcrawl after xcrawl died. So there are 8 combos and you get 1 try at each. That's how it works. For the first combo there were 60 some people. That's fallen off a bit. And Guanadine is in the lead, that's me, but I'm probably not going to win. I don't think I'll even have time to play all the combos later. Safer's doing pretty well. Yeah, team won't stop shafting. Has some people I was on a team with in an earlier tournament. Alright, let's get to the morgue analysis since this is a morgue analysis video. So for the first combo, Demigod Gladiator. Demigod in bcrawl gets some abilities. They have sort of a self-god that you start the game with. Here's me, and you can see at the end of the game, this was a 8 rune game, I was doing pretty well. I had a pretty strong character. You can say, hey, 69 AC, nice. 58 shield is really high. Bloodbane reworked in bcrawl, it teleports you, but it does a lot of damage and it drains you if you remove it. But I had anti-teleportation here to counter that. I had full resistances to everything. Iron Dragon scales are super heavy armor, very high encumbrance, but this guy had massive strength. He was in Lich form, and Lich form with heavy armor doesn't work in DCSS, but in bcrawl it's permanent if you have enough spell power. Right. So this is how this character looked at the end of the game, and a lot of people just look at this. But personally, I think it's more interesting to go way down to the bottom, and you look at the skill training versus level, and you look at these actions versus level. So you can say, hey, I had a long sword at the start, but I found a dagger, and I used a dagger for a while, and then I switched back to a long sword, and then around this point I found a double sword. Yeah, and eventually I picked up Bloodbane and switched to that. You can see I used a sling a fair number of times. That's something I very often do in the early game if I'm playing for a streak or win rate. It's a pretty good weapon even if you haven't trained it at all. And I also threw stones a bunch, so I have a key set up to either melee if an enemy is in range or throw a stone to basically wait. That's why I'm throwing so many stones without training a lot of that. But I did eventually train throwing. Brought it up to 20, which with heroism is close to the max, and that does really good damage with javelins or tomahawks. You can see I only picked up Lich form, Necromutation, near the end of the game. Didn't cast it very much because it's permanent at high spell power. I used Growth a decent number of times, Major Destruction quite a bit, and then later on mostly heroism, which not that surprising. Yeah, you can see when I switch to the super heavy armor at the end, you can see all sorts of stuff from these. Especially the skill training is pretty interesting for figuring out how to build a character, how to survive the early game. I usually like to train mostly weapons, some fighting, and then some dodging or shields, depending on the character. Yeah. So let's look at some other characters. Don't want to spend the whole video on mine. Team won't stop shafting. And Pedrotolo. These guys both entered Dis in under 40k turns, getting the turn bonus, which is a one-time bonus. Safer is a pretty good player too, and maybe let's look at somebody who died earlier on. A couple of good players. Alright. So team won't stop shafting. This is a unarmed character who is in statue form. Statue form, unarmed, classic combo. You want a big shield, or at least a shield. And yeah, had some decent stuff, but basically a typical unarmed statue form character. Went for a little bit of throwing early, which is interesting. Just to throw stones? Well, he did throw some tomahawks, but he didn't start throwing tomahawks until level 7. Oh well. And some fighting. Throwing does cross-train with slings, so it'll help you out with your slings a little bit. He picked up some invocations as well. A little bit of growth, a little bit of temporal distortion, very little smiting. 270 heroism is a lot. And yeah, got some early spells. Animate Skeleton is a great level 1 spell, very easy to get. 6 Necro just for that, I guess. Transmutations, Charms. So Necro and Charms was for regeneration. That helps quite a bit for turn count games, since obviously getting your health back is often a limited factor. Then he went for statue form fairly early, considering the aptitudes. Went for that here. Level 12 to 15 was the statue form training. And then it goes permanent, and he doesn't have to cast it much anymore. And if you're getting transmutations, it's always worth picking up Sticks to Snakes. Very good level 2 spell, as long as you have arrows. Lightning Spire, also very good. It's a higher level in bcrawl, but still worth using. And then we picked up LRD and Vile Clutch and Death Channel. So statue form, LRD, Vile Clutch, Death Channel is a classic Earth Transmutations Necro combo. You get all these very good level 5 and 6 spells for 3 schools at a moderate level. None of the spells is a high level one that you need to train extra to get. So you get all of them at a similar point in the game. And they're all very good. You don't need all of them. Even just 2 is pretty much a combo. Statue form doesn't just share spell schools, it also means you can have AC without having encumbrance from armor that affects your spell casting. Eventually he picked up Deflect Missiles, which is permanent, but it drains mana based on your spell power in bcrawl. Picked up some other stuff, but mostly a statue form unarmed character. You can see over 4,000 unarmed attacks in mostly statue form, which is a pretty good strategy. Alright, Pedrotolo was an axe guy. Axe, big shield, heavy armor. Very different strategy. Picked up some mutations here. What was his build, though? Fighting a little bit of invocations for, I guess, growth. A little bit of growth, mostly major destruction. 10 to 12. I guess he didn't use any really early invocations. He waited until he picked up major destruction. Used that for a little bit, and then did some heroism. A decent amount of smiting. Not nearly as much heroism as the last morgue had. A little bit of throwing, but he didn't really train throwing. Mostly just did some pole arms actually at the start, because you can see he started with a trident and then he switched to a broad axe when he found a decent axe. And he I guess that might have been his plan from the start, because It's hard to say. There is kind of a gap in the polearm training. He might have just been looking for some kind of good weapon, hoping he would find something good early. He didn't go for axes until level 13 here, and then he trained to that pretty hard. But yeah, this is basically a normal heavy armor axe guy. Did make a couple spell casts. Spectral weapon was picked up near the end. Regeneration, again, very good for turn count. Actually got infusion, but I don't think he would have had the spell power to make that very good. Animate skeleton, also very good. What was his int at? 13 int. Yeah, infusion wasn't going to help him that much. Alright, standard axe guy. Let's look at Safer. This was a 3-rune demigod. Another axe guy. Broad axe, gold dragon scales, shield. It's a good strategy. You get a lot of strength, and I guess a lot of dex in this case as well. If you have a large shield, then you want mostly strength, because large shields scale with strength, bucklers scale with dex mostly. So you can go all in on strength, where super heavy armor, use a large shield, and you're only relying on a single stat. But yeah, pretty straightforward character. Did have a bunch of heroism, a little bit of smiting and divine shield. Did train some throwing, enough to get javelins to min delay with heroism, which makes silver javelins pretty good against orbs of fire if you can get your throwing up to at least 16. The silver javelins will do very good damage, since they have a huge bonus against chaotic enemies like orbs of fire. Yeah, not much to say here, really. And Toasted Zergling. Toasted Zergling. What happened to you? You were hit by an iron shot from Jorgren. Ouch. Let's look at the log here. Oh, By Susan was there too. Yeah, By Susan has been buffed in bcrawl a bit. That's pretty dangerous. Two uniques like that at the same time. Plus a fawn shooting a sling here. With growth, I think it should have been possible to at least get a retreat path that would give enough time for a teleport. But I don't think Toasted Zergling here realized how dangerous the situation was until he took a bunch of damage on the last turn. Got struck by lightning, got hit by a sling bullet from a fawn, and got hit by an iron shot, all on the same turn. So that was a bunch of sudden damage, but that's the nature of the game, and it's often worth retreating earlier than some people think. Retreating really early, fight the enemies one at a time, be aware that you can take a bunch of sudden damage and just die. That's how the game is. Looking at the skill training, went for maces, got a whip, which that was snake bite, right? Yeah, snake bite. Not the best whip against poison resistant enemies, so you really do want to have a backup weapon, but good against a lot of stuff. A +8 whip by itself, without the curare bonus, is not amazing later on. It's only good in the pretty early game. Only used growth once. I think that may have been a mistake. You might have not fully appreciated the value here. But it is a new species, basically, with new abilities. Not many people are that familiar with the way you can use growth on these guys. Alright, that was Toasted Zergling. Doesn't. Got killed by a blink frog. Should have used growth or something. Yeah, I think was just playing too fast. Well, it happens, I guess. Went for a quarterstaff into a dagger, then switched to a flail. Fair enough. Quarterstaff is the best starting weapon, but you usually want to switch to a different weapon type later on. Yeah, used growth a couple times. Not that much. Went for plate armor. Alright, so that's the first combo. Let's look at combo number 2 now. Minotaur Sloth Apostle. We have a few turn count players. I did turn count. Jungle Crunch did. Degenerate Plane did as well. Let's look at that. Safer's a great player, but died on this character. And Energetic Octo. I know that guy. Oh. Who else? Jiva Jigglypuff. Yeah, that's Dynast, if you didn't know. Cod's a good player. Let's look at him. Power Mode. Also interesting. I was going to say an interesting player. He's a very good player. He's good at real-time speedruns. He does turn count speedruns. I don't know if he does streaks so much. Alright, let's look at these morgues here. Jungle Crunch. Picked up 8 runes. Got a Holy Sword. Very nice crystal plate armor. So heavy armor, sword guy, large shield. Swords give a bonus to shield in bcrawl based on your dex and your weapon skill. So they work well with shields, but there are sort of diminishing returns to shields at some point. So you don't necessarily need that much. Usually 30 or so is enough. But more is always better. So you went with the Shining one. Very good late game god, obviously. The standard combo is a Minotaur fighter of the Shining one for extended. And this is basically what that ended up being. When did you leave Che? You reached max piety. And so after Hell was cleared, after the vestibule was cleared, he switched to Che. Switched from Che to the Shining one, then cleared Crypt to build up piety, and was forgiven by Che. Then did extended. Fair enough. Alright. Yeah. You did get the turn bonus, right? Yeah. When did you enter Dis? Found a gateway to Dis. This was after switching to TSO, clearing Crypt, and reaching max piety with the Shining one. Yeah, so 40k turns was, I guess, fairly generous. Went back to Orc and still entered Dis before 40k turns, having switched from Che. Alright. And then, it's a pretty standard strategy after that point. He went back and cleared some stuff, did some more extended. Pretty standard fighter. Picked up a little bit of evocations for the starting wand. Got some shields. Did go for some throwing here. Quite a bit of throwing. Went for long blades. Not immediately, though. Did start with long blades. Wonder why that was... that training was delayed so much. Maybe he was seeing if he found a better weapon. I don't know. Did use a sling quite a bit. This is a pretty standard character, I would say. Used some evocables. Yeah. Not much to say. Here's me. I had an axe, a big shield, swamp dragon scales, because I was using statue form mostly. And yeah, most of this equipment doesn't matter, except it's a broad axe and a large shield. And I was using statue form. I stayed with Che just because it seemed appropriate. It seemed to be in the spirit of the run. I finished the game in under 26k turns and entered. When did I enter Dis? Yeah, 22,677. I wasn't in that much of a hurry, really. I was clearing some stuff. Went and cleared the bottom level of vaults, got the silver rune, just to get some extra experience. I probably could have done this before that. I probably could have done this before 20k turns if I wanted, but there wasn't really any need to. And then I just went through Zot real fast, escaped with the orb. So this was an axe statue form character. I picked up Vile Clutch as well, and the LRD. Standard combo with statue form. I was using lesser beckoning a bit because my movement speed was so slow. I did pick up deflect missiles, might as well if you have high int. A little bit of regeneration, just to save some turns. I didn't ever pick up apportation, or did I? Well, I never used it in any case. Never used apportation. If I'd gotten that early, I don't think I found it. Well, it wasn't in my spell list anyway. Yeah. That would have saved some turns if I'd gotten that, or maybe Passage of Galubria, but, well, I had more than enough time. Statue form was also fairly late. When did I start casting statue form? 19 to 21. Started training Earth and Transmutations around level 17 here. So could have gone for that earlier and saved some more time, but, well, the run was plenty fast. This was not a slow win by any means, and this was with a little bit of grinding. Yeah. Spells and axes, it's perfectly reasonable. Next, morgue here. Degenerate Plane entered Dis without being fully prepared and was killed by a brimstone fiend. Yeah. What can I say? Pretty nice hand crossbow, plus 11, but it is still just a hand crossbow. I don't know. That's not bad, actually. Large shield and a plus 11 hand crossbow is a good enough endgame weapon. If you have this much strength, it'll give you some bonus damage. As long as you have a good melee weapon to switch to. Actually, using the orange crystal plate armor, this is one of those classic things that, well, it gives you a spell power bonus and plus int, but that's almost never relevant unless you're with Che, which can give you enough strength and int to actually use this thing fully. Yeah. Unfortunate. What happened? You produce a hideous howling noise. The Brimstone Fiend roars. I guess that must have been a mutation, right? Very slow. No? What is the hideous howling noise? Might have been... I'm not actually sure. You produce a hideous howling noise. Oh! Evoke which item? Might have been evocation? I'm not actually sure what that is. That's interesting. I might have to ask about that. Anyway, step out of the flow of time. Yeah, I guess that was a reasonable play. If you're in a bad situation, you can step from time, hope the stuff leaves, but It's better if you have some stealth, and I don't think this guy had any stealth. Yeah, very heavy armor, no stealth. Uh, Step from time doesn't necessarily save you, as this run shows. But he did get the full. Well, he did get as many bonus points for entering dis as he did, as he would have for winning. So that's still fine. Anyway, interesting to see end game hand crossbow. Safer died earlier on. Was doing a turn count speed run, went into the depths, got killed by a Titan. It was using unarmed. Did you have statue form? No, no statue form. Maybe it was hoping for statue form. It was training transmutations. Training transmutations for. What were you training transmutations for? You had pass wall. You had spider form. You had blade hands. Maybe for blade hands. Maybe he was going for blade hands. But had a shield, right? Yeah. Blade hands melds your shield, so it's not great if you've trained shields. You want to have really high evasion, especially if you have an amulet of reflection. And what happened to you? Got some mutations, some temporary mutations. Must have been using slouch here. Had a golden dragon and a titan. Read the scroll of teleportation too late. Got, oh, that's unlucky. So airstrike by the titan, and then potion of heal wounds. Hit by the golden dragon. Hit by another. Well, hit by a melee by the titan, and died. Doing a dangerous vault here. Well, I guess that happens when you're doing a turn count speedrun. Like the other turn count players, picked up regeneration. Did get appreciation. That can save quite a few turns. Used a decent number of slouches. Yeah. Heavy armor, shield, unarmed. Perfectly reasonable stuff, especially if you can pick up statue form at some point. Okay, energetic octo, killed by a hippogriff. Yeah. Early regular speed melee enemy. Did have some paralysis charges, so this is why I started the Sloth Apostle with a Wand of Paralysis. You get these dangerous melee enemies. Might have been able to survive by using these charges here, but he was kind of low already. And there was a orc wizard as well, you can see. Hitting him, he reads a teleport scroll. He was hoping to survive long enough. He's attacking the orc priest. Yeah. Usually it's better to be running away if you're teleporting instead of trying to attack. Look at all these blocks. No damage. Oh, your surroundings suddenly seem different. Okay. Yeah. He got the teleport off, and then he was out of teleport scrolls. Yeah, that makes more sense. No, he had another teleport, actually. But he thought he could survive? I don't know. Use the paralysis wand, teleport early, run away early, fight stuff one at a time, retreat. You have to be very careful with Che. One strategy that you want to use a lot of the time is to sort of spiral outwards from stairs so that you don't get flanked by enemies when you're trying to retreat, and you don't end up fighting more enemies at a time than you absolutely have to. Yep, Auto Explore is extremely dangerous when you're playing a slow moving character. There's Cod, killed by a lindworm in the swamp. What happened to you? Oh, a thorn hunter. Okay. Thorn hunter and a lindworm. Moving slowly. Bunch of stuff. Tried to use a wand of clouds. Yeah, I guess this was the end vault. The end vault of the swamp. Lethally poisoned. Unfortunate. Was going for turn count as well. That always makes things more dangerous. Che makes things more dangerous with slow movement. Or I should say slow movement always makes things more dangerous. And then turn count. Going for turn count makes things more dangerous. So it's not that surprising to see some deaths from good players. But, well, I needed to kill some good players in order to not have everybody get the max score. So thanks for your sacrifice, COD. In power mode, not really going for turn count, going for real time. Oh, and there was somebody who was close to getting the real time points. Yeah, Pedrotolo had pretty low turn count and a bit over an hour for the win, which is pretty close to picking up the orb in 50 minutes. Axe, shield, heavy armor. And Minotaur, of course. This is a pretty standard speedrun strategy, and Che is not bad for real-time speedruns, but is certainly risky. So, almost. And yeah, power mode was going for real-time as well. Didn't quite make it. Killed by an entropy weaver on the bottom of the vaults, going for the silver rune. Obviously not just a entropy weaver. There's all sorts of stuff down there. Yeah. Unfortunate. Let's see. Yeah, let's go on to the third combo. Vampire Rogue. Let's look at some wins. Team Won't Stop Shafting. COD and Jungle Crunch are good players. Dynast, he actually just was playing fast and died real early, so it wasn't that interesting, despite Dynast being a very good player. One of the very top players, top 3 with Man and Yermak, I would say, when he's trying to win. Oh well. Safer was a Vampire Rogue, switched to Mokleb. You went with Dith, right? Yeah, he started off worshipping Dith and then eventually switched to Mokleb. Later on, we can look at the skills. He went straight for unarmed. So he started off with the starting dagger, and around here, level 4 to 6, he switched to unarmed. He was just training real hard the whole time, and eventually maxed out. Not much evocations. Also maxed out fighting, bunch of dodging. Picked up earth magic as well. Earth magic, shields, and necro. Actually used tree form early on, en route to statue form. So this was a unarmed statue form character in the end. But a few tree form casts. It's always nice to see people using the spell I made. And eventually picked up Vile Clutch. One of those spells that's really worth going for if you have some int and you're not wearing super heavy armor. For example, because you're in statue form. So, yeah, statue form, Vile Clutch, unarmed, pretty good combo, adequate defense. Switch to Mock Lab. When did you switch to Mock Lab? After doing Dis. Yeah. Entered Dis with plenty of time to spare before 20k turns, so this was a turn count run. And then afterwards switched to Mock Lab. Yeah, interesting to see a turn count run with Dith. I guess you can do it. Alright. Let's see. Next up is Trogdor. 3 rune win with a quick blade, a light armor, and a buckler with a amulet of reflection. High evasion, high dex. Yeah, usually quick blades have a hard time killing armored enemies. Uskia does help with that. You can eventually get a paralysis off. Let's see. You also cast Irradiate a number of times. Alright, well, that can kill orbs of fire. Yeah, Blink. Confuse is very good with vampires. They have the Hex aptitude. Started off with stealth and short blades. Eventually went for spellcasting, transmutations. Yeah. I guess that was for Irradiate. What were the early transmutations for? Maybe Yaris? No, this is all later on. Maybe he started training for Irradiate and then changed his mind here, and then went for it seriously later on. That might be what happened here. Went for a buckler in the mid game. Bucklers are usually worth going for if you're using a one-handed weapon. Not much experience to train them, and then there's no real reason not to use them. Sometimes you can get a resistance on them or extra AC, which is more than worth for levels in a skill. Didn't go for throwing, didn't go for summonings. Yeah. Blink, Yara's invisibility, and Irradiate. Didn't use invisibility that much. I did pick it up kind of late. Mostly just used Confuse on everything, I guess, and then stabbed and got the Uskia paralysis stabs as well. Well, did manage to kill some orbs of fire? Yeah, killed an orb of fire. Killed an orb of fire. Probably using Irradiate. Well, congrats, Strogdor. Good job. Here was mine. A very slow game. Over 100,000 turns. This was an interesting strategy that I wanted to try. I also went for a quick blade and a buckler. Medium armor. And what spells did I have again? Infusion. Yes, this was an infusion game. I went hard for charms. Well, somewhat hard for charms. Picked up 11 levels. Eventually brought that up some more. And I used infusion through the whole game, even in Zot. Song of Slaying, not as much. Spectral Weapon I used as well. It's not that helpful with a quick blade, but it's okay. Picked up Deflect Missiles. Invisibility, also got that pretty late, but I used it quite a bit. So my strategy in this game for taking out Orbs of Fire was something I wanted to try. I picked up Irradiate right at the end of the game, and I would irradiate Orbs of Fire to build up enough piety to use Line Pass on the Orb of Fire, which doesn't cost piety in bcrawl, which is what enables this strategy. So I had Line Pass, which confuses the orb if you have enough invocations, which I did. and then you can get some stabs off, which will do enough damage to bring your Uskiyo Piety up to where you get paralysis, and then you can stab the orb of fire and kill it. A very elaborate strategy. Just wanted to give it a try, and it did work, but I don't know if I'd recommend it. It's not optimal, certainly. Alright, Pedrotolo, 3 runes, Dithmenos. Okay? So Dithmenos in bcrawl, when you use Shadow Step, it doesn't cost HP, it's very cheap in terms of piety, and it can make a player ghost of yourself that doesn't last very long. But Dithmenos in bcrawl doesn't mimic your attacks, so it doesn't give you that extra passive damage. Anyway, long blades and a shield with dex, using that shield bonus, up to 36 shield, that's a lot, with the brooch of shielding. So, reflection, very good resistances, very dragon scales. I mean, a pretty solid character, I would say. Let's look at the skill training, dodging, fighting, short blades, early evocations. Didn't go for short blades super early. Maybe was hoping for a better weapon, just training dodging and fighting instead early on. Well, I like to train my weapon a bit, just because early game is the hardest part, but well, maybe it's a matter of personal taste. Went for Necro for Animate Skeleton early on. Picked up Mephitic Cloud as well. Blink, Conjure Flame, Pass Wall. All pretty good utility spells. Eventually Spectral Weapon. Eventually Invisibility. And finally Deflect Missiles. Yeah, solid melee character with some utility spells. Long blade plus shield with high dex and dodging. Medium armor. A solid high evasion melee character, I would say. Fair enough. Won't stop shafting. Killed by an orc priest on level 2. Fighting an adder and orcs. Oh, okay, HP restored, sorry. That was after the adder kill. You climb downward, there's an orc pack. Ogre comes into view. Trying to fight an orc priest on D2 is usually a mistake. Yeah, they're extremely dangerous that early on. You're really supposed to just run from them. Alright. Well, sometimes you win, but not this time. Sorry. Jungle Crunch. Ooh, killed by an Eden. What happened to you? Trying to fight an Eden and it just demolished him. There was a Catoblopus as well. Yeah, the late dungeon is real dangerous in bcrawl. Since it was shortened in xcrawl, this wasn't my fault. Unless you blame me for not changing it back, but yeah. This was after clearing Lair and Orc. Yeah, Ettins though, they do a lot of damage. Did have pretty solid evasion. Were you exhausted? Might have been able to Serpent's Lash. Yeah, should have been able to Serpent's Lash here. That might have actually saved him if he'd just done a Serpent's Lash to kill off that Eden. I don't know why he was using a +3 dagger of freezing though. It wasn't a spellcaster. A +3 dagger just isn't gonna cut it most of the time. If you're actually trying to melee stuff, sure it's okay for stabbing, but Uh, Stabbing characters usually end up with enough stealth and short blade skill that they don't need to use a dagger. Well, you had 14 stealth. I guess. I don't know. I don't know. You need a backup weapon if you're using a dagger and trying to stab stuff. Stabbing will not always work. Enemies will sometimes wake up, even if you have a lot of stealth. Don't melee stuff with a dagger, and if you're in a situation like that, probably use Serpent Slash. Finish off Edens. They can do a lot of sudden damage, especially if the Eden has Holy Wrath and you're a vampire, because that does massive bonus damage. 2 exclamation points here for the hit, another 2 for the bonus damage. Yes, that's just a lot of sudden damage that I guess he wasn't expecting. Thought he was safe and really wasn't. Oh well. God. Killed by a thorn hunter. Yeah, using a quick blade. I don't know. It did use Serpent Slash. You can see exhausted here in the status, which was not in the other one. Yeah, it's under the at here. Did use that at least. Unfortunate. For sure. Those can be pretty tough for melee characters, although not as dangerous as the mangroves, I think. Now that mangroves can constrict you. Scale mail. Melee character with confuse and invisibility. So, well, confused stabber, I guess you would say. I don't know if that synergizes with Serpent Slash and Woo attacks so much, but Woo does let you lunge stab things. With Serpent Slash and lunge, you can stab from several tiles away, which is pretty strong. So, Woo isn't bad for stabbers necessarily. Although, obviously, Heavenly Storm will wake everything up if you use it. Yeah, bad encounter in the swamp. Hard to say what went wrong here exactly. Okay, Felid Monk. Very few players. A lot of people don't like Felid. I did rework it in bcrawl, but might need more rework. I don't know. I won. Safer won. A couple people died later on. Let's look at them. Maybe look at Cod and Trogdor. Oh no, wait. Those are ongoing games. My mistake. Checkers. Let's look at Rain. Killed by a gnoll. Well, Felids are fast, so you can usually run away. Trying to fight an orc pack on D4. Well, it's not too early to fight orcs. Sky Beast. Trying to stab some stuff. Okay. Teleport scroll. Null Sergeant is very close. And he tries to fight instead of running away. Well, okay. Maybe should have just run away. Could have some potions. Lignification might have saved him. Probably wouldn't have. But might have just been able to run away. Anyway, early dungeon is tough. A lot of people never even make it to lair. A lot of people give up on Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup before they've made it to lair once, or finished lair, say. Which, well, game is hard, I guess. There's Safer, a 3-rune win, statue form, unarmed. Well, obviously unarmed. Felids are always unarmed. But statue form, very good for Felids. Got some good jewelry. So, good resistances. Went for tree form. Then blade hands. Yeah, interesting. Tree form into blade hands, into statue form, and dragon form. And used invisibility early on. So, first hexes for invisibility, then transmutations for tree form, and you got those about the same time. Actually, first hexes for shackle. Shackle is a level 2 spell. You can get some value out of it. Then for invisibility, and tree form is hexes, transmutations. He also picked up confuse around this point, and yeah, then got blade hands, then statue form, and once you have statue form, you're in a much better position. Dragon form, it has some value as well, for sure. A little more situational. And just trained a bunch of unarmed and stealth and dodging and fighting, and had enough for permanent statue form and transmutations and so on. And yeah, a little bit of invocations. Not much invocations. Didn't use well, this was a Sif character, actually. Switched to Moklab at some point, but Sif Muna. Yeah. As a monk, if you join Sif in bcrawl, you will immediately get a gift. Sif gives gifts much earlier in bcrawl than in Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. So he picked up Shackle, and then I think got invisibility as well from Sif. Yeah. Got some very helpful spells, and then switched to Moklab at some point. Well, fair enough. This was me. I went with Dithmenos, unarmed, statue form. Again. Yeah. I mean, any character, any species can do unarmed with statue form. You get a really good bonus to your unarmed damage. But it's especially good for Felids because normally you'd be losing armor, but they don't have any armor to lose anyway. You do lose your speed, or you lose more speed, but it's a good trade. I had some decent jewelry, pretty good resistances, although I did have to have something with slow on it. Some AC from a protection ring. Yep. And repel missiles from the scarf. Yeah. Had invisibility. I was using shadow form in the end, though. So I wanted to test out my Felid rework and Dithmenos rework some more, so went with this. Dith seemed thematic. I considered going with Nemelex, actually, but I didn't find Nemelex in the temple. Anyway, a bunch of unarmed and dodging. Some stealth. Went for statue form once I found it. But I trained Earth first because I've actually found Sandblast early on. And you can kite stuff like ogres with Sandblast, and it's very helpful just to have a little bit of Earth. And yeah, so I went for Earth for Sandblast. Then I picked up Stone Arrow. Then I picked up Blade Hands, which is pure transmutations, and that set me up for statue form as soon as I found it a few levels later. Very well, and then might as well get LRD if you have Earth. Iron Shot was as much for the Dith shadows as for me, because your shadows can cast Iron Shot, and that's very good. And invisibility I picked up pretty late. I think I just didn't find it until this point in the game. Yeah. Pretty straightforward character on paper, but this was really weird to play. I had trouble killing stuff, and I was running around all over the place, and a couple of entrances were really dangerous, and I'm surprised I only died once. Slain by a shambling mangrove. I did get down to like 1 HP. Yeah, 1 HP. About 5 HP and then 1 HP. But I lived. Obviously, you would respawn if you died here as a Felid. I did have extra lives, but oh well. I was playing pretty recklessly. I guess I didn't care about winning that much, apart from the extra lives, but I did anyway. Okay. Jungle Crunch also went with Dith. Killed by 6 Fury. Very dangerous if you don't have high AC and or Aralek. Sorcerers can paralyze you too, of course. Yep. Bolt of fire hits you. Fire burns you terribly. Fire burns you terribly. Oh. Fire vulnerable because he was in ice form. I see. Yeah. So he was in ice form. Got hit by a bolt of fire. Alright. What were you training? Stealth and unarmed. And some dodging. Some evocations. Then went for hexes. Picked up Fulminant Prism. That's interesting. Felids obviously have a very good hexes aptitude. -1 to conjurations isn't that bad. Prism is a very good spell, but it's also very loud, so you need to be careful. And ice form here. Went for transmutations and ice. For that, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of ice form. I think in many cases spider form or just being a Felid is actually better. It does give you extra HP. It gives you poison immunity, but you need to be very careful about your low evasion and your fire vulnerability. If you train a bunch of dodging, it's not going to help you nearly as much because it affects your size. You can see, well, I mean, the 20 evasion, I guess, is okay. It would have been higher, obviously, if not in ice form. Yeah. 11 dodging. Oh well. A lot of sudden damage, fire vulnerability, shocked by 6 Fury, Orc Sorcerer. Yes. Were you killed before this point? Yes, you're killed by a Skeletal Warrior on D11. Killed by an Orc Knight as well. Well, okay. Had trouble killing stuff as well, I guess. Centaur Warrior was what killed Pedrotolo. Pedrotolo went with Sif Muna, like safer. Okay. Got quite a few spells, as you can see here. Went for some summoning shadow creatures and summon Hydra, huh? Those are pretty good. Summons are a good option for Felids, especially in bcrawl, since you're not losing any experience. You get your experience for seeing things, not for killing them, and that means the 50% experience when your summons kill something, it's, well, that scales with damage. So you get 50% XP for things dying and 50% XP for dealing full damage to them. If your summons deal all the damage, you get half XP. Anyway, that doesn't affect Felids in bcrawl at all, so summons are a pretty good option. And Sif will give you summoning spells. Sif will give extra mana. So, arguably Sif is the best, or well, arguably Sif is the natural choice for a pure summoner. I don't want to say the best one, but it's very complementary to your strategy as opposed to sort of orthogonal or utility. A lot of summonings, not a lot of unarmed. What did you train? Mostly fighting, and went straight for summonings at level 3. Then some unarmed. That was interesting. Picked up Call Imp early on. That explains it. And Call Imp can carry you for a while, although didn't find anything until Summon Hydra. Going straight from Call Imp to Summon Hydra is quite a leap here. So had to train some unarmed in the meantime. Didn't pick up any transmutation spells. Well, didn't cast them. When did you get Sif Muna? Let's see here. Go up to the first instance. D7. So not an early temple. Not an early temple. Didn't learn any spells immediately. Or maybe you did actually. I don't think that's noted. Ah, it is noted. My mistake. Learned a level 2 spell, Call Imp. Okay, so you found Call Imp super early on. There was a random spell book lying on the ground. It wasn't a gift from Sif Muna. Picked up that and Mephitic Cloud. Must have been a book of wizardry. Fair enough. Well, that was a decent strategy. I'm a little surprised that Shadow Creatures and Summon Hydra wasn't enough to deal with dungeon stuff. Seven-headed Hydra is fighting some ogres. Killed by a centaur warrior. Maybe a little too aggressive. I was killed by an orc on D11. Don't see that too often. Oh, okay. Well, too bad. It was a good try, though. Not a bad strategy, maybe just a bad engagement at the end. Alright, well, this video is already past 50 minutes, and I'm getting a little tired. My throat's getting a little sore. So I'm going to end things here. Thanks for watching, and if I do another one for the remaining tournament combos, I'll see you next time.